conservative media channel One America News Network announced on Tuesday that Matt Gaetz will be hosting their primetime political talk show. Gaetz' new one-hour show will air at 9 Eastern starting January 2025. He will also co-host a weekly video podcast with OANN's Dan Ball. The former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is not the only one who took this path. Others have done this in the past. In 2019, former White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders obviously became a Fox News contributor after leaving President Trump's team.
In 2023, Jen Psaki, the former White House press secretary for President Biden, joined MSNBC, where she hosted and still does host, I believe, Inside with Jen Psaki, replacing an hour of All In with Chris Hayes. Let's take a look.
We're going to start today with Donald Trump's interview with NBC's Kristen Welker. And look, I'm not here to explain it all or to make sense of it all, because that would be a very tall task. And frankly, I'm not here to sane-wash some of the crazy things he says or pretend his tone means he's a changed man. I don't think that's the thing.
Sean Spicer, who served as the White House communications director in 2017 under President Trump, launched Spicer & Co. and in 2020 on the network Newsmax, another conservative cable channel. He started his new show in 2023, The Sean Spicer Show. It also aired by the First TV. Let's watch.
Do you think that Biden will issue preemptive pardons for people writ large?
First, we just need to say very clearly that revenge is not the same thing as accountability. Number two, is this even constitutional? So I know everyone's saying the word that it's unprecedented, but is it actually legal? Is it constitutional? Can he actually do this? Isn't this indicative that Biden thinks that these individuals have done something illegal? Like, don't you pursue a pardon to excuse and pardon and forgive?
And Simone Sanders, in 2020, joined the presidential campaign of then former Vice President Joe Biden as a senior advisor. And after Biden won the election, she was named chief spokesperson and a senior advisor for Vice President Kamala Harris, after which Sanders debuted her new show on MSNBC. Simone, let's watch some of that.
I would like to take a few moments to talk about Harvard University President Dr. Claudine Gay. She resigned last week after drawing criticism for her testimony at a congressional hearing on campus anti-Semitism, along with allegations of so-called plagiarism.
So, based on that lovely sizzle reel of
Absolutely.
past political spokespeople and members of Congress joining political news networks, there's nothing new at all about that. I don't even see anyone objecting, really, to the idea that this would be a unworthy fit for Matt Gaetz. One America, not to besmirch their name, is a little bit less big time than Fox News or MSNBC or something like that, but he has found a place there, and I wish him well. What can you say?
He has found a place there. I imagine, incidentally, that's the longest you have watched Simone Sanders' show probably ever. In that introduction.
What? No, Simone is my favorite.
Yes, I'm sure she is, Robby.
Yes.
And look, I mean, there is this pipeline now which takes people from the political world to the media world. I think
vice versa.
And vice versa. And very much vice versa in
Yes.
the incoming Trump administration, where we have a number of figures, most notably Pete Hegseth, who really made their name and image in the media, though of course he did serve in the military prior to that. And now that media experience seems to be commending him to President-elect Trump. And as far as the broad issue, I'll get back to Gaetz in a second, but I think the broad issue here is the propensity of certain cable networks, both on right and left, to function as rather propagandistic outlets for the political party. Now, it's a free country, people can program whatever they wish. I don't mind either programming with a liberal or conservative viewpoint or lens, which nonetheless adheres to certain journalistic values that I think are important. You have countervailing views, you are fair, you're accurate, etc. I do think that there is a tendency now to just have, and has been for some years, have people just recite the party talking points. We try, I think, legitimately hard not to do that here, where you're obviously representing a more libertarian viewpoint and I'm representing a more liberal one, but that is different from simply saying, like, I'm not here to represent the DNC and you're not here to represent the RNC, and I think that there are people in cable news networks who are there for that purpose.
I find this to be the case when the seldom times when I do turn on the TV and watch cable news. It happens less and less frequently. I usually just get the highlights from social media where clips are posted or from YouTube. But when I do actually turn on the TV, I still have cable because I can't figure out how to cancel it, and I think it would be a bigger waste of my time to get on the phone with
try to get out of the deal.
Xfin or FiOS to get out of it. I'll just pay it every month, whatever. But when I turn it on, I find, yes, I'm confronted by, on both sides, just total propaganda. And it's so, more than it being harmful, I just find it boring and I don't want to watch it. Although I will say that I've taken One America and Newsmax side, or I've felt a lot of sympathy for them as they've been threatened by Democratic lawmakers in some cases, or platforms that are carrying them, like Comcast and Verizon, have received threatening letters in the past from the likes of Elizabeth Warren type people over how we want investigation into your decision to have these channels, and that, to me, that's very much a First Amendment adjacent issue.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the targeting of advertisers. The whole advertiser boycott tactic.
Oh,
I think
yes,
that
I'm glad
has
to
been
hear
used on both wings of the political spectrum. And I don't really, because then it seems to me, then you are sort of seconding corporations into some sort of moral position, which I think corporations are very bad at upholding apart from anything else. And it just seems a weird...
And those third-party, I've said this many times on the show, so people who watch regularly won't be surprised that I think this way, but those third-party kind of watchdog organizations on behalf of some issue are very partisan and very, I would even say, propagandistic in many cases about what counts. When they'll say this about Twitter. There's, here's our study that hate or racism or anti-Semitism is worse than ever, and does your company want to be advertising alongside a Nazi image that was viewed 8 trillion times and it sounds so bad, and then the company's like, oh, okay, no, we don't want to do that. And then when you dig in deep, they're misrepresenting the situation. Liberals, I think, or progressives, would take notice of them, organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, using this to blunt criticism of Israel. So that happens, and progressives should be aware of it. I think conservatives have made some good points about those things being overcounted or miscounted in a way to make it looked like Elon Musk did something worse than actually the way the site is being run. And it's not the advertisers demanding any of these changes. It's them saying, we don't know anything about this. We're relying on this third-party organization that is the most partisan of all.
Yeah, it can be activist organizations often, and I do think that's a real danger. Just one other thing, not to get too much into media inside baseball, as it were, but I do think it's interesting, the sort of paradigm that a lot of cable news companies use is it's kind of akin to sports, but for politics. And just as sport networks will have people who are former players on, political or news networks like to have former political players on. To me, and this is a bit of a generalization, the people who are better in those roles are people who have either made their money and don't need to worry about it anymore, or who have sort of aged out of being active political, campaign operatives and so forth. Someone like David Axelrod, I think, is very good. He certainly doesn't balk at criticizing President Biden or Democrats, and I think brings genuine expertise to it. Where I think the problem arises is where you have people who are actually positioning themselves to get back in the game.
Pick me Trump, pick me Biden.
Exactly. And then it becomes, the commentary is sort of subservient to the desire to cater favor with politicians.
Well, one reason you get this partisan or propagandistic or whatever situation where you have all these just like-minded rah-rah cheerleaders for a Republican Party on a place like One America and so on is that CNN, MSNBC more so than CNN these days, very reluctant, or NBC, to roll out the red carpet for someone who doesn't agree with them. Look what happened to the Ronna McDaniel when I think it was NBC wanted to bring her on as a contributor, and people at the network went insane, and I thought that was so strange, given that you can have her on and she's going to express the perspective, and you can have people disagree with her, and it seemed like and she's not a crazy person. She was a surrogate for the Republican Party. If you think that is itself a crime beyond all measure, then I guess that's going to be your standpoint. But only letting Republicans in who are like anti-Trump or broke with Trump ends up representing a very narrow slice of the Republican Party, if you can even call it a slice of the Republican Party at all, and it's very self-defeating. So then those people end up on One America, Newsmax.
No, I agree with that, and I also think that the reverse does happen on the other side. There are people who I refer to as people who play Democrats on Fox News, which is people who don't really believe in anything the modern Democratic Party believes in, but come on as a quote-unquote Democratic strategist to say how terrible the Democrats are about everything. I mean, I think it is quite profitable to be a heretic or purport to be a heretic at the moment, but it is all part of a propensity to just play to people's existing prejudices and biases.
I always give props to Democrats who do choose to go on Fox from time to time. Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, and Bernie Sanders will do it on occasion, and it's a very good idea.
And I'm not putting them in the category that I just mentioned, which is people...
No, I know exactly who you mean. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. We know who you mean.
Yes.
More to come, still on Rising Today. Please stay with us.